Hello, I'm Jefferson College President Dr. Dina McCaffrey, and on behalf of the Jefferson College Growth Association, we welcome you to today's virtual legislative forum. The college and the Growth Association partner each year to hear from our federal and state legislators. The Growth Association's mission is to coordinate professional leadership in the county to promote new and existing growth to Jefferson County, and this legislative forum is one way that we provide that opportunity. So to get us started, we will hear from United States Senator Roy Blunt.
I'm Roy Blunt. I really wish I could be with you today in person, but glad to be able to be with all of you this way to talk about some of the things we're in the Senate and obviously the priority that I have for our state and what we're doing for our state. As you know, I've been working hard to be sure that we had a seat at the table when it comes to crafting a significant infrastructure package. Four of my Republican colleagues and I have been negotiating with the White House. Last week, we gave the White House a counteroffer that totals almost $1 trillion on true infrastructure investments like roads and bridges and ports and airports and broadband. I think the White House sees that infrastructure is really important. We all know we need it. By the way, on that $1 trillion number, that's the number President Trump kept using as what we should be doing for infrastructure. We weren't able to do in the Trump years and didn't do in the previous 8 years what we need to even begin to keep up with what we need in infrastructure. And everybody, I think, has a strong sense of that. So the administration decided, why don't we just call everything infrastructure? And even if you think some of these things would be a good idea, like more of a home assistance for older Americans and Missourians, that's a debate we could have, but we don't need to have it as part of an infrastructure debate. I personally think the 2017 tax bill was producing great results when the pandemic started. I'm not for revisiting that right now or getting our corporate tax way above the rest of the world again, like it was when we started that debate, or raising taxes on capital gains or the inheritance tax or other things that are being discussed. So we want to talk about infrastructure. I've also proposed, and we've done this in a bipartisan way for 3 Congresses now, some sort of infrastructure financing authority so there'd be more opportunity for public-private relationships, something we clearly might see at a port like the Jefferson County Port, or we might see at a bridge where there's no current bridge there. We've got to look for more effective ways, I think, to keep our infrastructure up. I remain hopeful that the president wants to work together. The other option they have is to do that with 50 Democrats and the vice president. One, I'm not sure they can get that done. 2, I think it won't produce as big a package. And 3, if we have a bipartisan infrastructure bill, that doesn't mean that President Biden and all the Democrats in the Senate can't try to do the rest of that package by themselves and vote on it for what it is, which is not an infrastructure bill. You know, transportation is important for the whole country, but it's really critical for us. I often say, and some of you have heard me say on more than one occasion, the greatest advantage we have where we live is where we live. We're a transportation hub for the nation's highways and railroads and waterways, ports and airports. The Jefferson County Port Project would be a great example of what needs to happen and what can happen as we look at what's going to happen as people bring more of their opportunities to make things back to the continental United States, what's going to happen as world food demand continues to grow. We're incredibly well located for that. But for us to really compete like we need to make the most of the advantages we have where we live. And Jefferson County is right in the center of all of that opportunity. Infrastructure bills have always been bipartisan efforts, and infrastructure, by the way, the federal government's been involved in infrastructure since the very beginning of the Constitution, whether it was the highway system up and down the East Coast or the canals that many people, including President Washington, wanted to see the government get involved in and built. There's a strong foundation for us to come together and craft a bipartisan bill that would improve infrastructure, enhance the quality of life for Americans, create jobs, and promote economic growth. I really hope we can get that done this year. I think we've got until maybe the first 10 days or so of June to decide if we're going to go forward in a bipartisan way, or the Biden administration makes the decision that they can get everything they want by going forward on an even bigger bill, a $2.3 trillion bill that includes lots of things that nobody would have thought were infrastructure not very long ago. At the end of last year, we were able to get a final comprehensive Water Resources and Development Act reauthorization signed into law, which helps support programs administered by the Corps of Engineers. You know, we obviously have an incredible set of inland waterways, the Mississippi River, the Missouri River being principal among them, heavily relying on the Corps for both flood control and navigation related projects. I think we have to do a better job with how we use both of those rivers, but I think we're a long way down that path with the Mississippi. We need to do a better job of how we deal with the Missouri. We need to include navigation and ecosystem sustainability programs. We need to do everything we can to continue to modernize the 7 locks and dams on the upper Mississippi River. The Mississippi River Tributaries Project provides a way that we can talk about both flood control and navigational work. And the Missouri River Bank Stabilization and Navigation Program is there to help the operation and maintenance of the work we need so that there's a navigational channel in the Missouri. If there's a navigational channel in the Missouri that's taken care of and works, part of our flooding problems are solved. The things you have to do on the banks, the things you have to do in terms of water release, critically important if you're going to use that great economic artery for that purpose. And you can do that in a way that is not detrimental and is, I think, positive on all fronts. I'm glad to see the Corps has initiated the feasibility studies for both navigation and flood control on the lower Missouri Basin. Almost all of that's in Missouri. It's a different river than the upper Missouri River, and we need to treat it like it's a different river. I'm glad to see the Corps, the various stakeholders in all 4 states in the lower basin are working together to advance these studies. I'll continue to keep a close eye on the progress of these efforts as they're really critically important to the lower basin and how we're able to use it both for flood control and navigation. President Biden inherited an economy that was strong before the pandemic and poised to return in force once Americans become fully vaccinated and we can return to normal. We saw a lot of that happen over the Memorial Day weekend. I've been hopeful for a long time that we'd be fully back to normal by the 4th of July and by the start of school next year. I think that's going to happen. You know, clearly one of the problems and concerns we've heard from business owners is the difficulty they've had hiring workers. Unfortunately, the federally enhanced unemployment benefits have really been in place in a way that have created a disincentive for people to work. Missouri is one of the more than 20 states now that have recognized that challenge, and I support Governor Parsons' efforts to address it by no longer adding the $300 to the weekly unemployment check. The average of unemployment around the country right now, the average state would be $618 a week. That's $15.46 an hour, and enough of that gets special tax treatment that it's even more than $15.46 an hour. You've heard and I've heard people who are doing their best to get back to meet the customers that are there ready to be served but don't have the people to do that, whether it's a hotel or a restaurant or a retail store. We're seeing that everywhere. We need to continue to work toward full economic recovery. We can't afford federal policies that make it harder for businesses to get back on their feet. The Tax Cuts and Jobs Act created the foundation for a strong economy. We need to keep that structure in place. Again, raising taxes on workers and Main Street businesses to pay for massive spending bills will hurt our recovery and will drive inflation. It'll also drive jobs overseas and make us less competitive. In addition to the economic challenges we've seen over the past year, there have really been some unique healthcare challenges that went way beyond the COVID part of the pandemic, particularly when it comes to mental health and addiction. As many of you know, one of the things I've worked on hard is to improve access to mental health care. It's been one of my top priorities. The pandemic showed us why it's so important. Over the past year, depression of various kinds, drug overdose deaths, which by the way were the highest on record last year after 3 years of pretty significant decline. The calls to the National Suicide Hotline all increased substantially. I'll be introducing legislation with Senator Stabenow, a Democrat from Michigan, to expand a program that we started in 2015, Excellence in Mental Health. That bill will allow more states to participate in the pilot program, which was created in 2014 and 15, legislatively in 14, put in place in 15 to establish the first certified community behavioral health centers in 8 states, including Missouri. And by the way, I don't know that there's any county in our state that has made the long commitment to mental health that Jefferson County has. I've looked at this program, I've admired it for a long time. Clearly, Jefferson County was, and the structure there was ready for the ability to do more, and Excellence in Mental Health allowed that to happen, so that 24/7 access to mental health is really strong in Jefferson County. Hopefully that program is going to show that our other healthcare costs actually go down when we treat mental health like all other health. Creating access for mental health care can actually save money because of those additional healthcare costs that go down. The proven record of success getting people to care faster and closer to home and reducing hospitalizations and emergency room visits just simply save money. The pandemic also highlighted how important telehealth is and has shown really how it can be enormously beneficial in mental health as well as all other health. And by the way, called real attention to the need for everybody having access to broadband. And in our state, we still have 26% of rural Missourians that don't have access to broadband. We're working hard to make that happen. I'd like to see that as part of the infrastructure plan. Hopefully it can be. A lot of people just simply find it more convenient to access care through telehealth. Nobody has to take you to the doctor. Somebody may have to come and help you set up the equipment, but I've talked to lots of doctors about this, and they say routinely that well over 9 out of 10 visits with patients are equally effective in telehealth as they are if that person comes in person. And by the way, if you're having a telehealth appointment, you're less likely to miss it than you are to miss another kind of appointment in person. So hopefully we'll see telehealth continue after the end of the public health emergency. 2021 has really already been a busy year. I don't have any plans to slow down. I think you know that this will be my last term, but I intend to finish strong. We have a lot of work ahead of us in healthcare, in infrastructure, and an economy that is ready to take off if we do the right things instead of the wrong things. I appreciate everything you're doing every day to support all of those efforts, to create jobs, to strengthen communities, and support one another through the greatest public health crisis we've seen in a century. Thanks again for letting me speak with you today. I look forward to seeing all of you in person soon.
Thank you, Senator Blunt, for your service to our state. Representative Jason Smith also serves the United States House of Representatives.
When American small businesses are on a level playing field, they can compete against anyone in the world. Organizations like the Jefferson County Growth Association play such a vital role because they support the local communities by helping be a voice to small businesses like yours and help pave the path for your continued success and growth. I'm a firm believer that a government that is closest to the people is more effective than the one managed by Washington bureaucrats. As your representative in DC, my job is to get red tape out of the way so that you can support your local community the best way possible. Our country does not have a revenue problem, it has a spending problem. And the Biden administration is making things worse every day. The president is proposing the largest tax increase in American history, one so large that if it's enacted, a small business in southern Missouri would pay more in taxes than they would if they opened up shop in communist China. We need to make sure our tax code puts American workers first. Instead of raising taxes, we need to be thinking about policies that empower local communities and target projects to the areas with the most need. I look forward to continuing to work with the Jefferson County Growth Association to make sure Southern Missouri remains the best place to work and raise a family.
Representative Ann Wagner serves the United States House of Representatives.
Hi, I'm Congresswoman Ann Wagner, the representative for Missouri's 2nd Congressional District, which includes northern Jefferson County. First of all, thank you so much to the Jefferson County Growth Association for inviting me to participate today and provide a little congressional update. I always appreciate the opportunity to give my constituents an update on what I'm doing in Congress. We've all had our lives upended by the pandemic, and it's been more challenging in the People's House as well. However, we worked quickly last year to provide a comprehensive package of critical aid to help our citizens and local communities weather the pandemic. Throughout the pandemic, I was in close contact with County Executive Gannon to stay on top and up to date on local issues and help provide any federal assistance and relevant information we could. My staff and I also worked with the County Health Department and Jefferson County Economic Development Corporation to help ensure you were able to access critical supplies and funding programs. As our communities safely reopen and get back to normal, we have not lost sight of other legislative priorities. I have introduced bipartisan legislation in the House to help strengthen protections for regions that are prone to repeated flooding. Floods have devastated cities, towns, and farms in Missouri for far too long, and my Repeatedly Flooded Communities Act would build more resilient communities and mitigate future flood damage to at-risk homes and businesses. No one wants to spend money to rebuild flood-prone properties, and my legislation will ensure that necessary steps are taken to alleviate the efforts of these natural disasters. Another piece of legislation I've been advocating for is my Born Alive Act. This common sense bill would require life-saving medical care for babies who survive an abortion. Every single life is sacred and precious, no matter the circumstances of his or her birth. I will not stop working until this legislation becomes law, so newborns have a chance at life when they are at their most vulnerable. Something else I have fought for in Congress is what is called the VOCA fix. Certain policies at the Department of Justice have led to dangerously low funding for the Crime Victims Fund, a fund that is critical for victims of crimes, specifically children who are victims of abuse. My bill, the VOCA Fix Act, aims to shore up that critical funding without the use of taxpayer dollars, so victims of child abuse can get the critical service that they need. Thank you again for having me today to give you a brief update on how I am working for Missourians in Congress.
Samuel Safa is liaison to United States Senator Josh Hawley.
Well, hello everyone. My name is Sam Safa and I represent U.S. Senator Josh Hawley here in Jefferson County. And I want to thank the Jefferson County Growth Association for having me today. And briefly, I'd like to give you just two legislative priorities Senator Hawley has been focused on in Washington this year. And they've both been centered around helping the working families of Missouri. And the first program I'd like to introduce you to is the Blue Collar Bonus Program. Senator Hawley believes any worker making less than the national median wage, which is $16.50 an hour, anyone making less than that should receive a pay raise. So Senator Hawley's blue collar bonus program would provide a way for Missouri workers to take more money home every year through a refundable tax credit, which is tied directly to the hours you've worked. So here's how that would work. The tax credit is worth 50% of the difference between the median wage and the worker's hourly wage rate. In other words, the credit would effectively boost hourly wages 50% closer to the median of $16.50. So if you make $12.50 an hour, for example, you would receive a credit of $2 per hour to bring you 50% closer to $16.50. Or let's take a worker making Missouri's minimum wage, for example, at $10.30, which is Missouri's minimum wage. That worker would receive $6,400 a year from an advanced tax credit, which would be deposited directly into their bank account. So Senator Hawley believes higher wages for blue-collar workers, they're long overdue, and the government compounded and made this problem worse by shutting down the economy a year ago. So this program, the Blue Collar Bonus, is about meaningful relief for families and for working Missourians through higher pay while incentivizing and promoting work. The second proposal I want to mention to you today is Senator Hawley's Parent Tax Credit. Now, this is one of the largest and biggest tax cuts in history for working families, and it's Senator Hawley's idea to reward parenthood, reward marriage, and reward hard work, and provide more help to working families in Missouri and Jefferson County. Here's how this would work. Qualified households with a child under 13 years of age would receive a fully refundable tax credit advanced to them in monthly payments. So single parents would receive $6,000. Married parents would receive double that at $12,000. And I'll tell you, the idea here is to allow parents to make their own decisions about how to raise their children. A lot of parents would like to have at least one parent stay at home for a period of time, but feel maybe like they can't afford that. Senator Hawley's plan would help them afford to stay home with their children by keeping more of their tax dollars and not force them through government-mandated programs. Now, the parent tax credit should not be confused with the current federal child care programs, which force both parents into the labor force and require the children to be enrolled in commercial child care. So I'd say in closing, I want to thank the Jefferson County Growth Association for having me today. If I can help you, if our office can be of service to you, a friend, a neighbor, please let me know. My job is to help Missourians navigate the federal bureaucracy. So if you need something, need help with like a Social Security claim or an IRS issue or an SBA loan, please let me know. I appreciate the opportunity to be here today, and I look forward to joining you all in person very, very soon. Thank you.
Senator Elaine Gannon, Missouri State Senator, District 3.
Greetings from the state capitol in Jefferson City to the amazing people of Jefferson County. I am honored to provide this legislative update and thankful for Shannon's invitation and the generous sponsors who made this event and others like it possible. How fortunate we are to have a county-wide association to help our business community flourish. And I love President Dan Govero's quote, "Shop Jefferson County, it may just save your life," noting how vital the emergency services supported by local sales taxes are to our community. Although this was my 9th legislative session, transitioning from representing parts of our county in House District 115 to the approximate 170,000 people who reside in the 3rd Senatorial District has been an exhilarating and challenging experience. Thank you for entrusting me to this important job. Please note, this video was recorded shortly before the end of the session, so I apologize for any discrepancies. A complete list of bills that were truly agreed and finally passed may be found on the Missouri Senate website by clicking on the Legislative tab and selecting Bill Status Reports. If you have any questions regarding what I discussed today, the progress of legislation, or the 101st General Assembly in general, please call or email my office. My door is always open. My teaching and coaching background requires me to start with the topic of education. One of the overarching themes I hear from business owners is the issue of finding good employees, and I think part of the solution lies in quality education. Students who are successful in school make equitable employees, so it is imperative we have policies in place to ensure the success of each child in each school district. As a staunch supporter of public schools, I'm glad the General Assembly fully funded the foundation formula for our K-12 schools in next year's budget and increased the funding for school transportation. Over the course of this session, hundreds of education-related bills were filed and over 75 were referred to the Senate Education Committee, ranging from education reform and savings accounts to charter schools and alternatives to graduation. One that gained tremendous traction and unanimously passed out of the Senate is Senate Bill 152. This omnibus education bill contains provisions to limit the seclusion and restraint of students, establishes the Show Me Success Diploma program as an alternative to graduation, creates the Extended Learning Opportunities Act, puts forth a reading success plan, and implements a competency-based education grant program and task force. If passed, I believe this measure will help to produce a knowledgeable and dependable workforce for employees throughout our state. I sponsored several education-based bills, including one to incorporate vaping prevention instruction in curriculum frameworks and one to include stress management training for teachers. When speaking with educators around the district, these two issues seem to dominate discussions, so I will keep pushing to get these policies passed. I enjoy serving on the Senate Education Committee as well as the Joint Committee on Education. Stewarding policies for our students and teachers is most important to me. Another leg up for our children is the newly formed Office of Childhood, made official by the Governor's executive order in January. Prior to this consolidation, early childhood services were split between 3 state departments, but now all programs will be housed at DESE to restructure services and improve the efficacy of child care, home visiting, early learning, and early intervention. Since 90% of brain development occurs before the age of 5, and healthy brain development is linked to social, emotional, and academic success, it makes sense to streamline these valuable services under one roof. Besides education, policies to benefit our community and its residents are my top priority. My Senate Bill 71 is headed to the governor's desk for his consideration. This measure adds pets to protective orders, updates the definition of stalking, extends the length of ex parte orders to prevent victims from excessive court appearances, and allows appeals following a change or placement of a child. The General Assembly also passed House Bills 429 and 430 to help place foster children and assist prospective parents with the expenses incurring during the foster or adoptive proceedings. Reducing domestic violence and increasing opportunities for foster kids are huge strides in the right direction for our community. Another task put before the Missouri legislature this session was to reduce the violent crime ravaging our state. The combined Senate Bill 53 and 60 adds some protections for our law enforcement officers and modifies policing procedures like limiting the use of chokeholds. From my perspective, we cannot arrest our way out of this crisis. And in order to truly reduce the incidence of violent crimes, we must first address the underlying socioeconomic causes, such as poverty and lack of opportunities. In terms of the economy, my colleagues and I made some headway on several policies this session. Ensuring our small businesses and local economies recover from the pandemic was at the foremost of a wide array of discussions, one of which was protecting our small businesses from COVID liability suits. Both chambers advanced legislation on the topic, Senate Bill 51 and House Bill 1064 respectively. Many of you reached out to my office about receiving notices from the Department of Labor regarding unemployment overpayments, so the budget passed by the General Assembly allocated federal stimulus funds to cover Missouri's share of these overpayments instead of hanging our struggling unemployed workers with the balance. Finally, we tried to level the playing field for our brick and mortar businesses by implementing an online sales tax on internet purchases and making other modifications to taxes in Senate Bill 153. Another measure relating to taxes is Senate Bill 262. As you know, I am not a proponent of raising taxes, but I'm thankful the General Assembly passed this measure to raise our state's fuel usage tax. I believe our funding deficit for transportation is at a crisis level and interferes with our state's ability to be competitive, not to mention the safety hazards caused by unmaintained roads and bridges. It has been 25 years since our state raised the tax, and at 17 cents per gallon, Missouri has the nation's third lowest rate. To give some perspective, minimum wages in Missouri in 1995 was $4.38 and has more than doubled to $9.45 in 2020. The bill gradually raises the usage tax 2.5 cents per gallon each year for a total of 12.5 cents per gallon by 2025. Missouri has the 7th largest transportation system in the nation, so we must find a sustainable way to maintain existing roads and bridges and fund new projects. In its Transportation Economic Impact Study published in April, the Missouri Chamber of Commerce reports this simple 2.5 cent per gallon raise in gas taxes will translate into $500 million a year to support our vast transportation systems and make a dent in the backlog of transportation projects. Even more importantly, the Missouri Chamber claims these annual benefits to drivers and infrastructure investments have the potential to generate $1.8 billion in sales for our economy, increase earnings by $722 million across the state, and create 17,000 jobs each year. Learn more about the impact just a few cents a gallon at the pump has on our overall economy by visiting the Missouri Can't Wait website. Our county's Public Works Department completed 8 road and bridge projects in 2020, has 15 scheduled for 2021, and 3 on the books for 2022 and 2023. Extra revenue from gas sales truly benefits us all. Also important to our community is the allocation of more funding in next year's operating budget to the state's ports. Jefferson County is one of Missouri's 15 port authorities, so I hope this funding will encourage industrial development and expansion of our ports along the Big Muddy to foster economic growth. My outlook for the future of our county and state is optimistic, and I will continue to work hard to push beneficial legislation across the finish line. Good policies are sometimes years in the making, but with your help, we can and will progress and prosper. I am so impressed with the resiliency of our small businesses and the tenacity of our community as we navigated COVID and its ancillary effects this past year. Please get vaccinated so we can ease restrictions, get back to normal, and hopefully hold next year's legislative forum in person. I miss shaking hands, kissing babies, and getting to know the people of my home county. One bright side of the pandemic is now it is easier than ever to participate in the legislative process from home. The committee hearings and chamber discussions are live streamed, and citizens may submit written testimony electronically instead of driving to Jefferson City to appear in person. The Senate website is updated almost immediately following votes, making it convenient to follow a bill's progress in real time. You can even take a virtual tour of the Capitol through videos posted on the Missouri State Parks website. I will close with a personal public service announcement. I am your senator, but you are my voice. While I may be the professional voter on policies, amendments, bills, budgets, and substitutes at our state capitol, you provide the reasoning and substance behind these votes. My success in Jefferson City completely depends on the ideas and support of the great people of Jefferson County and the 3rd Senatorial District. Together, we will make our community and state the best place to live, learn, work, and raise a family.
Representative Becky Ruth is with the Missouri House of Representatives, District 114.
Hi, I'm State Representative Becky Ruth, representing District 114. I'd like to start off by thanking the Jefferson County Growth Association, Jefferson College, Livestream STL for making this possible. Welcome to my home. Ordinarily, I would be standing in front of you all speaking in person, but this year this event is virtual. I'd first like to say thank you to all of our healthcare workers, our EMS, our law enforcement, our educators, everybody that's been working on the front line during the pandemic. It's nice to see everything opening back up again and us starting to be at things in person. However, for tonight, we're going to go with this virtual presentation. So this year in the legislature, we had a $35.6 billion budget that we had to work with. A lot of that money was due to additional monies from the federal government from COVID. One of the things that we were able to do in the budget for yet another year that I'm most proud of is to fully fund the foundation formula. From day one, I have made education a priority of mine. And I have worked tirelessly to make sure our public schools have the money that they deserve, that our students are getting the education that they deserve, and our teachers have the tools to educate our students. So I'm very proud to see that get fully funded again. In addition, we were able to put in another $20 million into transportation for schools. That's an area that has been way underfunded in our budget year after year after year. We need to make sure our students are able to get to schools. And hopefully with this extra money, that's a start. But we're not finished yet, and it's something we're going to have to continue to work on. Also in the budget, we were able to actually consolidate some programs and make things better for children in our state with the Office of the Child being under the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education. We were also able to put an additional $2.1 million into parents as teachers. I believe making sure kids start off at an early age with a good education is essential to their future. Another thing that we were able to do this year in the legislature was to pass the Second Amendment Preservation Act, SAPA. I have always stood for our Second Amendment rights, and I will continue to fight for those. This year, after long, hard fights, we were able to get this done and over the finish line. I think this is something that's important to Jefferson Countyans. We cannot take for granted our Second Amendment rights, ever. As Chair of Transportation, I have been tasked each year for the past 3 years with coming up with solutions to help fund our roads and bridges in our state. I think most people would agree that the funding is not where it needs to be. Frankly, we are in the year 2021 operating on a 1996 budget. We have seen our roads begin to deteriorate time and time again. They're crumbling, and we need to make sure we have safe roads and bridges. Whether those roads are transporting our children in school buses to schools, families on vacation, commuters going to work each day, or other people just traveling through our state, our roads need to be safe. So I helped to sponsor Senate Bill 262. Senate Bill 262 does raise the fuel tax. Again, this is the very first time in 25 years that we've had a raise to our fuel tax. The last time was 1992 when Governor John Ashcroft, one of the most conservative Republican governors in history, pushed for and got a fuel tax increase that was fully implemented in 1996. Senate Bill 262 is a 2.5-cent increase over 5 years for a total of 12.5 cents. However, the difference with Senate Bill 262 is that we are offering consumers the opportunity to either leave their money invested in our infrastructure, in our roads and bridges, or to receive a refund. If they are not happy with the way this money is being spent, they get a vote every single year with their pocketbook. The refund is very simple. It's very streamlined. You have to fill out a one-page form. You need your gas receipts only in case you're audited. Now that receipt could be the paper receipt you get out of the gas pump, or you can simply take a picture of that receipt. Most people have phones with camera options on it. That can be your electronic record. You do not need to submit your receipts. You will sign the affidavit saying all the information on the form is true to the best of your knowledge. Then the Department of Revenue has 45 days to give you a check back to you for the amount of the new tax. If they do not if they do not send that check back to you within 45 days, then they have to pay you interest at the federal rate, which right now is 5%. I know there were a lot of people who voted no on Prop D back in 2018. Prop D is not the same as this. Prop D had Olympic gold medals in it, along with Highway Patrol. This is a simple, straightforward fuel tax, but one that you can actually get your money back. We have never ever had a tax before in our state where you can get 100% of your money back. And we've tried to make the process as simple as possible. We need an investment in these roads and bridges. Right now, MoDOT needs an additional $800 million a year just to keep up with what we have. This bill will provide $500 million whenever it's all said and done. What will it cost the consumers? When you look at this over the 5 years, once it's fully implemented, an average driver will be spending about $70 extra a year. Broken down over the months, it's a little over $6 a month. Now, when you stop and think about what does it cost you when you hit one of those potholes on our disintegrating roads, what does it cost to replace a tire? What does it cost to replace a ball joint? What does it cost for a front end alignment? Any one of those things is more expensive than what you will pay. And again, you can get a refund on those tax dollars if you decide that you don't want to keep your money as an investment in our roads and bridges. People talk about an audit of MoDOT. MoDOT already has an audit. Once a year, it's required annually that they have an outside audit done by a third party. That's available on MoDOT's website. You can go to it and look at it at any point in time. We were very careful to make sure that we were in accordance with our Constitution as well when it comes to the Hancock Amendment. There are 2 different places that we can point to that shows that this does not impact the Hancock Amendment. One is through the fiscal note. It is estimated that for 2021, the amount for Hancock is $111 million. This only hits at 102, way below the Hancock limit. On top of that, in 2004, voters, through an initiative petition process on the ballot, said that the funds that are going for our roads and bridges, because they must go there constitutionally, do not make up the total state revenues. So they are not counted in our total state revenues in terms of Hancock. So this will not trigger the Hancock Amendment at all. Again, I don't think that we should be passing on this debt to our grandchildren. It is a duty that we have per the Constitution to take care of our roads and bridges. That and education are the two things that we absolutely must do. So I believe this is a great investment. It's going to drive economic development. It's going to bring more jobs than what we have seen before. And it's going to give us safer roads and bridges. On top of that, well over 40% of the people that travel on our roads and bridges come from out of state. So this is truly a user fee. The people that are traveling on our roads and bridges are going to be paying for those roads and bridges. I would take any questions or emails from anyone on this, and I would be happy to explain the process personally to anyone that needs more information about this matter. But I'm happy that we are finally able to make this investment so that we know that when we're traveling down those highways, they're going to be safe. That came along with a huge announcement that most of you probably have seen in the Leader, that MoDOT is finally taking a serious look at getting us the third lane on I-55. That highway has been very congested. There are accidents all of the time from Highway Z to the 67 interchange. It is finally, for the first time, being considered on the STIP. There will be millions of dollars worth of road projects coming right here to Jefferson County, also as a result of passing Senate Bill 262. I'm glad to see us bring those dollars home and that we're getting our road projects here fixed. So that was a huge thing for me to take the step out on and say, yes, I'm willing to do this, to make this investment for all of Missouri. Other legislation that I was able to pass this year is something very important to me, and that's dealing with human sex trafficking. We hear story after story about young people that are being sex trafficked throughout our nation and throughout even our state and here in Jefferson County. To bring us into compliance with federal law, I was able to truly agree and finally pass a bill that will cause a person who has been convicted of human sex trafficking using a commercial vehicle to lose their CDL permanently for their whole entire lifetime. I think this is a great step forward. In addition, it's going to save our state about $56 million to make sure that we are in compliance with the federal law. Another area that has always been on my heart and in my passion is making sure that we are taking care of our most vulnerable citizens. Through the budget process, we were able to put in over $56 million for direct service providers. These are the people that are on the ground taking care of those with disabilities, our most vulnerable citizens. There has been a crisis in terms of the workforce for these people. They haven't had the wages where they need to be competitive. Through this initiative, we are able to make them finally competitive, to hire quality people in this industry who are proud to take care of those with disabilities. That's one of our greatest accomplishments, and I'm sure that we're going to need to continue to work on that. Those people deserve every penny that they work for. So let's continue to make sure we're taking care of our most vulnerable population. We had a lot of great other legislation passed this year in terms of foster children and putting them at the forefront. Jefferson County is in such a dire need of foster families, so being able to provide tax credits for that and to just make sure that these kids are getting into loving homes and have the care that they need. There are many more other items that didn't get finished this year. There's only so much time in a session. I would have liked to have seen us get some more voter reform legislation done in terms of initiative petition reform and voter ID. Those are things we're going to have to continue to work on. I think most people understand that we need to protect the integrity of our elections. With that, Again, I would just like to say thank you to the citizens of District 114 for having faith in me and allowing me to continue to serve as your state representative.
Representative Mike McGurl, Missouri House of Representatives, District 118.
Hi, my name is Mike McGurl, State Representative for District 118, which covers southern Jefferson County and northern Washington County. I'd like to thank the Jefferson County Growth Association for all the work that they do in working to build business and the economy in addition to the tourism of Jefferson County. This year was still a productive year, even though we were interrupted by COVID-19. We did get past several bills this session that I believe will be of a benefit not only for Jefferson County but also for the state. Now, one thing I'd like to say is I was pleased that I did get my random act of kindness bill. I did get that across the finish line this year. It's a bill that I had filed for a constituent whose daughter had committed suicide. And what it does is it just designates August 31st as a random act of kindness day, which is, of course, September. It is Suicide Awareness Month, so it just starts the month off. But I was pleased that I got that done. Another bill that I was hoping to get across this year was my special road district bill, which would have benefited the city of Hillsborough, because presently the city of Hillsborough, even though it's an incorporated area that has its own street department and everything, there's also a special road district. Well, the road district is limited in how much money, the 25%, that they can provide over to the city for their street needs in preparing and fixing their streets. So what this bill will do is it would free that up. Since I didn't get it across the finish line, I will be pre-filing this bill in December. And also, I've also already talked to the Municipal League, and they are going to bring in other municipalities that this bill would also help. So hopefully with that, we can get it done and get that across and get it completed. This year, we also, one of the bills that we did pass this year was for the gas tax. Now, the gas tax is 12.5 cents, but it's 2.5 cents a year for 5 years. And what it does is 70% will go to the state to do their necessary work, and then 15% will go to municipalities and 15% to the counties. Will be their share of the funds to help with maintain their roads and bridges. The bill also includes a refund mechanism that if individuals choose to participate, they can get the increase, and that would be the 2.5 cents per year. They can get that refunded to them. As you know, there's several projects that in Jefferson County, like the wanting to increase it 55 to 3 lanes to Festus. I would like to see some increase spending on 21. Now there will be we did get at 21 and 110, they will put a signal there because there has been several traffic accidents there that has occurred, and so consequently this will help reduce that in the future. Once it's done, I believe it's a 22 project. In addition, hopefully this will help fund to expand the Port Authority, because the better the infrastructure in the county, the more attractive it is to bring in business and also tourism, because those are lifelines for these companies and for tourism. So this would be beneficial to the county and to the municipalities. It will also help them. Another thing we did this year, we did pass a COVID-19 liability bill. Hopefully what this will do will reduce the impact of lawsuits by individuals who will claim that they have contracted COVID or whatever in the business location, and then sue the owner for it, later. So what this will do is it will help minimize that. That's the intent of it. And but the bill is not retroactive, so it will not take effect until the governor actually signs it. The other bill that we passed this year, which I was well pleased with, we passed the Wayfair sales tax bill. And what this is this will allow the state plus counties and municipalities to collect sales tax on their internet sales. At present, we were the last state, Florida being the other one that passed theirs about 2 or 3 weeks ago. We did get this across the finish line, and I was very pleased with that because I got to be a part of the negotiations that finally got that across the finish line. And what it will, again, it levelizes the playing field between the brick and mortar and the online sales. Now, if you have a use tax in place, you don't have to vote a new one. But if you have not passed a use tax, then you will need to vote one in order to participate. So I think, I know that the last time the use tax was voted in Jefferson County, it failed. But hopefully, by educating voters that, this is not a new tax. This is tax that should have been collected from starting back in the 90s, whenever the online sales started really taking place. So hopefully, by educating, the voters and realizing that it helps the businesses of the county. It helps our brick and mortar businesses to compete in a way that it makes them equal to the online sales, so that it's fair. Also in the bill, we did pass in there an income tax break, and how the income tax breaks works. If a business, if the income from the county, if the state income is over $150 million more than the previous average for the year, then the income tax rate can be dropped 0.1%. And this way it'll allow us, the state, to give a break for income tax. And again, it's just a matter of helping to make the bill, in order to, pass the bill, we needed a mechanism in there to return some of that money. Now, and the good part about it is, the return will be made by the income tax filers, but the municipalities and the counties, they will still get their revenue for the sales tax that's collected in those jurisdictions. So I think this is a good thing, but again, the voters will have to be educated about the tax, the internet sales tax, so that it hopefully will win approval from the voters, because you have to vote it in if you don't have one. The last thing that we did this year, we did pass the Second Amendment Preservation Act, which again, I know that there is, particularly in my district, there is a lot of hunters, and they like the idea of being able to have their guns. And so this hopefully will protect that from being taken. It's, of course, you never, I mean, it doesn't go overrule the federal by no means, but it is a thing to help local gun owners to maintain their Second Amendment rights. Again, in closing, I'd like to thank the Jefferson County Growth Association for allowing me to make this video and present this things that have happened this year with the Missouri Legislature. Again, thank you.
And finally, I would like to thank our legislators for the hard work they are doing on behalf of Jefferson County and the state of Missouri. And thank you to our sponsors for this virtual event. And hopefully next year we will be back in person here on the Jefferson College campus.